Hey everyone, welcome and thanks for tuning in to LCC Remix, where we unpack the latest message in a deeper way. We hope this episode encourages and speaks to you.
Welcome back to another episode of LCC Remix. We are excited to have you listening today as we continue our series, God in the Wilderness. And Pastor Aaron spoke this past week. He had us in Elam and moving on from there.
It's funny. I talked about how a resort town or a resort place Elam was, and then I saw it on the map. I was like, oh, there's just some trees there, basically. There's some shade.
Hey, if there's water,
there's water and shade.
There's an oasis.
That's
In Israel, in the desert, down south in the Sea of Galilee, towards Masada, you go past En Gedi, where David would go. It's an oasis, it's still there, and there's you're walking through desert, and there's cliffs and there's caves everywhere, and then you kind of go over this little area, and there's just trees, and there's this little dot of green, but because there's this pool of water, this spring that's coming up, and I remember going down into it, and I was like, "Wow, I get why." And it wasn't like a jungle; it was pretty sparse, but I get why in the midst of all this desert, like I could see why you would want to be here because this is the only place that has life, that you can see. So I get it. But resort, yeah. People are thinking it's the sandals of the ancient Middle East. Wait, what's the one for families? I don't want to say sandals. It's the other one. It's not flip flops. It's for kids. What is it? For kids, there's one for kids. They have like Sesame Street characters. I'm trying to think of it. Yeah. Sandals is like more for couples. No kids allowed.
No
Anyway,
adult.
I don't want to go to any of them.
No,
I don't want to go to any of them. That doesn't appeal to me in any way, shape, or form.
No, I prefer the wilderness.
Yes, that's right. You talked about that on Sunday.
Give me the mountains any day.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah. So let's talk about the wilderness. Why is it so hard? Well, you said you liked it. Maybe we can start there. On Sunday, you talked about liking the wilderness.
No, I did. Yeah, I look forward to going. And I guess wilderness you got to define too. Like, are we talking about the Sahara Desert, or are we talking about, the mountains and, just that it's extreme, whatever it is, extreme mountains, extreme hot, extreme rock, extreme dry, but it forces you out of your comfort zone, especially the longer you stay in it, in our world, glamping has become the popular camping. And it's not camping.
If you've got power and a soft serve ice cream machine, it's probably not camping.
Yeah, if you don't pack in.
Yeah, exactly.
That's right. But getting up there where you're not having to hear all of the distractions of our modern world, I mean, even if planes go over up there in the mountains, they're still at like 40,000 feet. Like you don't hear them. Not like here where the osprey go over your house about every other week.
It's not the bird.
He's not talking about the Seahawk.
Not the quiet bird.
What's that, the V-22? V-22? Yeah. They're loud.
They're very loud. Two went over last night. I'm like, whoa.
Just real quick, I remember years ago, took my kids to Shenandoah. We went camping, I thought. So I had a friend of mine. And I had a high-top conversion van at the time with a TV, VCR, and all that stuff, because I had a bunch of kids. And, so I'm like, how far, like, oh, no, you park here. Like, yeah, well, that's your campsite. Really? So it started raining, so we all sat in the van and watched a movie. It was really, difficult camping weather,
Oh, yeah.
Like, I was sitting in the captain's chair and watch a movie in the air conditioning.
That's funny. That's true of Shenandoah.
Yeah.
Like, here's your campsite. It's on the side hill with a bunch of roots and rocks underneath you. So good luck. Have fun.
Yeah.
So, but the wilderness. And so I think it was interesting that, God led them to the wilderness. Like God, that's what God had for them for a purpose. And I think week one was really about the purpose of the wilderness and the fact that, God has something for us in the wilderness as well. Like it's not, sometimes we feel like we just kind of fall into the wilderness, and often God is, I don't know if we would say God is allowing the wilderness to come into our life, for a purpose. But he definitely uses the wilderness times in our life, and
you talked about it. One of you talked about it being like a season, and you just said, God led them into the wilderness. Well, he led them into the wilderness instead of by way of another way, because he didn't think they could handle the war, right? Mm-hmm. So sometimes it is a place where you can get away from distractions and be prepared for something that maybe you're not prepared for right now, because they're going to have to face it eventually, and they did, but not till generations later, to be able to prepare for that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it was interesting I don't know, the perspective of how quickly they turn. It gives me the thought like they're coming out of slavery entitled. Like, I don't know how you do that, but they had a very entitled posture. Very quickly, like we said, 45 days out of Egypt, which in the middle of that 45 days, you've got the Red Sea crossing. And so there's things happening where God is still doing amazing things in their journey. And yet so quickly, they're ready to grumble and complain. So that first point that we talked about on Sunday was, the wilderness reveals what's already in your heart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. Your quote, I put it because whenever I get quotes from you guys, I'm not quite the quote guy that Pastor Greg is, sending them out every day, but this will be a good one. My heart is revealed when I'm in the wilderness. That was in the first service. You said that. I was like, oh, I like that. Yeah. That's good. You put that on a t-shirt.
Yeah, but yeah, we can mistake and think that my heart issue begins or starts in the wilderness. I was fine until I got into the wilderness.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Until I got here.
But the reality is, no. That your heart issue is, we're all broken, sinful people. Mm-hmm. Like, so our heart issue is an inherent thing that we have in us. That when we step into a wilderness season, that's what's going to come out. But for the grace of Jesus Christ. And so, here they are, they're in this wilderness where God is leading them through Moses and through Aaron, but he's leading them, and he's showing himself he's showing himself daily. Like, the one part that I didn't get to talk about a lot, and that kind of needs fleshing out, I guess you could say, is the glory of God part. Where he says, you're going to see the glory of God in the morning. Mm-hmm. And I believe he's talking about you're going to see the glory of God through the manna, through the bread that's falling from heaven in the morning. But there's the one part, and I can find the verse real quick, but the one part where he says they look off into the wilderness and they see the glory of God. So the glory of God was something that they were used to seeing almost.
Verse 10.
Verse 10, yeah. Yeah, so, how often are we seeking to see the glory of God in our because it's there. Mm-hmm. Like, it's not something that disappeared with the Israelite people. Like, it's there. The question is, are we looking for the glory of God in our life? Are we looking to see what God is, the miraculous things that God is doing in our mundane daily life, is something that, unfortunately, it seems like only those walking closest in step with him actually see and experience. Mm-hmm. But it's there for all of us to experience the glory of God, each and every day. And we tend to make it about an emotional thing. Like, oh, I'm emotional about this song, or I'm emotional about this verse even. Therefore, that's the glory of God. And it's, I don't know, I think it's something deeper than that.
Yeah. No, that's a good point, because it's they didn't recognize, like what you're saying, they didn't recognize that not only the wilderness was the place that the glory of the Lord would be revealed to them, because later the law is going to be revealed, God's purpose and plan and intention for them, but his provision was going to be shown. And they grumbled and murmur, but think how differently it would have been had their hearts just been different in that wilderness experience from day one. Do they, do they get to the promised land sooner than they actually do? I mean, God obviously is doing a work in a people, and I think, showing us, by extension, the work that needs to take place in us to bring us to that point of recognizing who God is, what his plan and purpose is, and how, if he has a plan and a purpose for us in our lives, he will give us everything we need to get us there, and how we're supposed to lean into him and trust him and worship him and glorify him and not murmur and not complain and not grumble, which I think is our factory setting because of the fall. Like, we just default right to, I hate this. I hate God, where are you? Mm-hmm. God, where are you right now? Yeah. He's right there.
Yeah.
Look. It's with you.
It's tough because you said factory setting. I think there's something in us that we're not set to be okay with just provision. We want excess. Mm. You know what I mean?
Yeah. They definitely wanted that there.
Right.
Yeah.
And starting from the fall with it just being knowledge, but I think that's the issue with it is not we have enough. It's just we want more. And I mean, that's super evident in our society today, but it's not about being getting to a point where your needs are met. It's about, it can't just be my needs, it has to be my wants too, and that's a problem, maybe the problem. I don't know.
Yeah. So it's very, very much like, if we put that into to modern context, like, our hearts are revealed, in these difficult times, and it goes both ways. I mean, you see people who are diagnosed with a disease or grieving somebody's loss, and you can see a heart after God revealed in those moments. Mm-hmm. Right. So you don't want to be totally negative and be like, oh yeah, you guys are all we're just all just super negative, and that's what's in our heart. But, it goes both ways. And when you see people who respond to very difficult circumstances or a season of the wilderness, with a heart after God and continuously seeking him, that's when that's when you realize that even in the middle of that wilderness, he's walking right there with him. And he never left the Israelite people. He was right there alongside, and the cloud never failed to show up in the morning, and the fire never failed to show up at night. And he was just leading and guiding them, like I said, preparing them for what was to come. And I don't know, I feel like we want the instant. Like, give me the instant, not just the instant gratification. Give me the instant, what do you want me to do? Mm-hmm. I just want to do it. Which we see, all the time. Somebody will come to saving faith in Christ and immediately be like, how can I want to get involved. How do I serve? How do I, and often we're like, just slow your roll. Like, just take some time and be discipled. Take your time, take some time and understand and hear and listen and seek what God's will is for in your life. And so, I don't know. The heart issue is something we deal with. We'll deal with continuously in the flesh. Mm-hmm. Again, we say it a lot. Like, going through 1 Corinthians and Romans recently, like, Paul's constantly talking about his battle with the flesh, and as God is continuously revealing things to him, he's still battling with his flesh each and every day, and that's something that we do as well. So yeah, the heart is revealed in the wilderness, and then the second point, I guess, coming out of the next few verses is that, God's grace and God is going to provide even when we don't deserve it. Mm-hmm. Yep. And that's where the throat punch came in, because there are people good Christian people who will say, like, well, get yourself cleaned up and then you can come be part of what we're doing.
Yeah, it's garbage.
And yeah,
define clean. Like help me understand that. Like, if someone ever said that, just ask them, like, what do you mean cleaned up?
Yes.
Yeah. Act like us.
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
Look the way we think you ought to look. Say the things we think you ought to say.
Yeah.
do and don't do the things that we think
acceptable or not acceptable to our group.
Don't drink, don't smoke, don't chew, don't go with girls that do.
That's right.
The old holiness
Words to
saying.
live by.
Third punch.
But yeah, it's been a constant throughout time that God is constantly giving what we don't deserve, in His love and His mercy, in our lives. And, He just continuously is calling us to draw near to Him, draw near to me, seek me, you will find me.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that constant, continuously.
And he gives us the wilderness to help us with that. And that's part of that. When I think of the wilderness, I look at Israel as, and I think it's written, what happened to them and what they went through was written for our benefit. Scripture says that. So you take the nation of Israel and look at it as just a person. Mm-hmm. And so their life, and a lot of us, we're enslaved to whatever we do, all that kind of stuff. He brings us out of that miraculously like He did with them. And there's this time in the wilderness. It talks about He wants to test their hearts to find out what's in there and to see if they will listen to Him. Mm-hmm. And so we go through that. It's interesting we're talking about seeing His glory. They didn't see His glory when they were in Egypt. Mm-hmm. It wasn't until they're in the wilderness now and things are getting stripped away and they're having now to rely on Him. They're having now to, even for their very lives, when, Egypt was after them. You talked about the red, being, that must have been pretty cool to watch. I would like to have seen that myself personally.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But the world's strongest army wiped out by water really quick. That'd be cool. So they were forced into dependence, forced into revealing, because God loved them. And so when we enter into a time of wilderness, it's not we're being punished. Mm-hmm. It's refining. Mm-hmm. It's the refining fire, and it talks about that in the Gospels. And so it is to bring those things out, to show us our hearts, to, you don't know what's inside of you until you have that moment, that you react, and then you actually see what's in your heart, and so, but that, I look at it as, the nation of Israel, that's my life, and so he does allow us or bring us into, however you want to word that, you can argue about that, but into the wilderness to expose, to cause dependency, to reveal our hearts, to teach us to listen to Him. And so you think too, God took 70 people that moved to Egypt. Okay, 400 years later, they're a nation of slaves. So every one of those persons, the only thing they knew was slavery. Mm-hmm. Think about that. Mm-hmm. They knew none of them had ever. They've heard of freedom. They never had experienced it. And so He had to take that group of people, and the wilderness almost had to happen because He had to get them to a point where they trusted Him, they relied on Him. So provision. Take 1 million people in the desert. Take me in the desert. How long will I last? Not very long.
I just had a weird thought, but
I don't want to hear that.
It's like just driving into the desert with Greg, and how long do you think you're going to survive? That'd be such a weird statement to make. Get out. By the way, you want to go to Arizona?
But you think so. But it God put them into an impossible situation to get them to depend on Him. To reveal their hearts, to do all those things, and that's what we talk about. That's what He does with our lives. Yeah. When somebody goes through something very difficult, you see the change in them. Mm-hmm. You see the refining process if they allow God to do that. Yeah. Or they rebel, one of the two. Mm-hmm. And they had, in this situation, they had both. So you see all that in this picture, which is kind of interesting.
What's interesting too is you have a whole generation who only knew the wilderness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were born in the wilderness, and were in that wilderness all the way up to the promised land. And so they were just constantly, I don't know. For them, what would it have been like to go into the promised land for that first time and be like, wow, this is what a creek looks like.
We don't have to eat manna anymore.
Yes. No, you think about that too, like eating manna for 40 years.
Yeah. You can make manna bread.
Manna burgers.
Manicotti.
Manicotti. I actually wrote those down when he said, I was writing down those things, like different ways to make manna from that. There's a song from years ago.
Yeah.
Was it Keith Green?
Keith Green. Yeah. Manna bread. Yeah.
I like the fact that you brought out, I made a note, God's provision comes with instructions.
Yeah. That was the third point.
Oh, it was?
Yes.
I didn't write a 3 by it. I apologize.
It was third point, but yeah.
I didn't mean to jump ahead.
No. That's yes. And as you break down the gathering of the manna, again, I think the Israelites were expecting like loaves of bread to drop from heaven, like already prepared, ready for us, buttered, toasted, ready to go.
Or nicely sealed in that Wonder Bread thing.
A nice Jewish rye.
But no, it was
some bagels.
Yeah.
Gotta have the bagel, yeah.
But there was some work that they had to do for that.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a work that they had to do every single day. Mm-hmm. That they had to go out and get the manna, and they had to do that. And again, you realize that they didn't get the quail every night, for 40 years. It was a periodic thing that they got, but that manna, it was there every morning. And I love that it literally means, what is it?
Yeah. Right.
So the interesting thing is, I think, with the manna, so they had to recognize, keep the Sabbath. So during the week that you brought it up, if you picked up and tried to store it overnight, it was gross in the morning. Mm-hmm. It stunk. There was worms or bugs in it and all that kind of stuff. But on the 6th day, you had to get enough for the next day, and it was preserved. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So you're looking at something, a supernatural thing right off the bat, because one doesn't make sense without, the two neither one, they don't make sense.
Yeah.
So one is, but God was then, he basically is going, he goes, I mean what I say. I'm not joking.
Yes. Yes.
I'm telling you, during the week, you get enough what you could eat now, because I want you to honor the Sabbath, so I'm going to provide for you to do that. Mm-hmm. And so you get enough, and so he wasn't kidding. Mm-hmm. He basically going to listen to me. Mm-hmm. Do it. Your life will be so much easier if you just listen to me and do what I tell you to do.
Yeah.
Because and so that's, so there was those kind of lessons that he was teaching them in that. And like you brought up the first group or whatever that, the first weekend, like, hey, it's Sabbath, let's go get something to eat, Yes. And they're walking around, there's nothing there. Like, okay, well, now, first what popped in my mind when you said that, like, oh, I don't have anything to eat today. They're going to be fine because, it's only a day. But if they didn't store up enough, pick up enough for 2 days, they weren't listening. They, wow, I'm not going to do that. I'll just get it tomorrow.
Yeah.
They learned a quick lesson.
Yeah.
I'm going to go hungry now.
Yeah.
So I'm going to, next week, Saturday, I'm going to pick up enough for 2 days. Yeah. Or I'm sorry, Friday. Yeah.
Before sundown.
Yeah. But so it's those lessons in that they're learning. God's going, I'm telling you the truth.
Yeah.
Listen to me, and your life will be a whole lot better if you do it, And but it took the wilderness to teach those lessons.
I think I always thought it was interesting that it says no matter how much they picked up, if they picked up a lot, there was no excess, and if they only picked up a little, there's no lack.
Yeah.
I mean, do you think they got wise to that and like, I can just take one little scoop and it'll be good? And also, I never thought about this before, but the generation that only knew the wilderness, when they went into the promised land, was there grumbling and complaining? Like, we got to grow our own food now? What is that? No, God provides it. You know?
Yeah. I'm not liking this
Never
farming
thought
thing. Yeah. Yeah. A lot of lessons learned.
Mm-hmm. Well, we apply that today as well. Like, again, this following Jesus isn't the get out of hell free card, you know, where it's just like, I said a prayer, I did, okay, so I'm good. It's, you know, there's instructions with what it looks like to follow Christ. We just went through all of 1 Corinthians talking about like what it looks like to be a follower of Jesus in a culture that doesn't follow Jesus. And so it's, you know, we have these instructions that we have to follow. You know, we have to be in his word to actually know what those instructions are, you know, to see the fruit of the Spirit for what the fruit of the Spirit is. I have to be in his word, you know. We like to think, oh, it's just common sense to be, you know, kind and patient and loving, but
look around. That's not common.
It's not common. And it's not just not common in our time. It has never been common, you know, and so it's a time where we just have to, you know, lean on him and get into his word each and every day to be, like we say it all the time, like praying for the Spirit to work in our lives today. Mm-hmm. Again, which is what that pointed to as far as this is your daily, you know, this is provision for today. This isn't provision for the next week. It's not for the next month. It's not, you know, I went to church last Easter, so I've got God's provision for the whole, you know, for the whole year. You know?
I prayed the sinner's prayer when I was 5. I'm good.
Yeah.
I've talked to a lot of people who thought that.
Yeah, so it's, you know, really being active in our walk with the Lord each and every day. Like it has to be. There's the things that he's called us to do.
That's right.
You know, I mentioned if you love me, you'll keep my commandments. You know,
love is a verb.
Thank you, DC Talk.
Love is a verb.
Waiting for somebody to sing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, talking about that daily provision that, once again, just, you know, because we like excess, you know,
we are American.
Yeah.
Right.
But
How many cars can you drive at once?
Yeah.
How many houses can you live in at once?
yeah, well,
How many pairs of jeans
Challenge
can you
accepted.
wear at once? Right? I'm just saying.
Try to steer 2
that's
cars
it.
at once. That's not going to go well.
If you get a European car and an American car.
Oh, yeah,
you could
yeah.
probably
Think
do
about
it.
that. Duct tape them
oh,
together.
your right hand and left hand.
Right hand,
drive,
left
yeah.
hand.
Yeah.
Straddle the doors.
I call this mega car.
Just keep the
Oh, that would be
speeds
horrible.
the same. That would be uncomfortable.
Oh, man. It's a nightmare.
But that,
You're right,
that,
Scott.
that
You're
daily
absolutely
provision, so you almost have to become, and this is going to sound so weird, you almost have to become careless in a good way.
Like you could care less,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, well, and the reason I say it, Oswald Chambers said this: be carefully careless about everything but your relationship to the Lord.
There you go. Right.
And so instead of you know, if you really rely on Jesus for your daily provision, your care of tomorrow goes away.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
You're careless, and so you simply live in that moment, and you rest in that. Now that's we don't do that very well because we're always worried about everything. But to be carefully careless, like Oswald Chambers talks about, you know, carefully careless about everything except your relationship with the Lord. And so, and I think the lesson that God was trying to teach them in the wilderness was just that. Don't worry about all this other stuff. I got it. Mm-hmm. You just worry about listening to me. You know, you don't have to worry about food. I'm gonna drop it in front of your door. You know, walk out your tent, get your little dust broom or whatever you do, however you pick your manna up. You know, the quail's gonna fall in front of your door. You know, Imagine the piles.
What's going on? Poor quail.
Can you imagine the piles of feathers everywhere?
Just popping those little quail breasts right off. If you ever process quail, it's not. That's pretty much it.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know.
But
Yeah.
But yeah. So God's, he's and it sounds weird, but he's teaching people to be careless about everything except listening to Him.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that can cause some real short circuiting in your brain, when you think about it. But that's what we're supposed to do in our walk. Just we always talk, keep the main thing,
Yeah.
and don't worry about the rest.
Mm-hmm.
And God takes, so it's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
It's a tough thing to. I mean, you could say careless, but you could also, the opposite of that being hyper focused. They both lead to the same thing.
Yeah.
Being careless, not worrying about it, or being hyper focused are both the same thing. Either way is it's a big challenge in today's world where multitasking is praised. Where you there's rarely a point in time, if you think about going through your day, when you're not doing like 2 or 3 or 7 things all at once,
And we're not good at any of them.
Right. Well, I mean, I always argue, you can multitask, but you're just doing each of those things less well than you're.
That's exactly right.
Focused,
Yeah.
But I mean, that's a challenge. And we can say it's distraction, but I mean, there are necessary things that you have to do in a day, but still be able to keep that balance of either being very focused or being completely just loose and reliant. But it's hard to strike that balance just with how we walk,
Yeah. I mean, I think one thing being self-employed taught me, is how to. It took me like 5 years to relax when I started, because you're always worried, And I had a family. I had a pretty large family, and I was the only breadwinner. So I had to take care of 7 people. And so it took me years to relax, to where I can rest in this now, because God's got this, and that's really how I thought. He provided, and showed me over and over again.
Yeah, right. That's the thing, right?
Yeah,
you learned it through experience.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You don't just step into it one day and go, woo.
Yeah, I got it. Yeah,
and,
God, thank you.
Yeah, but that's one thing that it helped me to learn though, was His provision. And that he sees, he understands, he knows my need, he knows all those things, and so that was a big life lesson for me during that time, and but it literally took me years to find my rest in that, because you're there I'm not going to go into the details, but self-employed, you can go months without getting a paycheck.
Yeah.
Just the way things work out and stuff, and so there's all that stuff that goes into that, and but learning how to rest in that, and okay, God's got this, and so it became instead of something that just wore me down all the time, it became something that I could rest in, and so anyway,
and that rest you're talking about, Jesus is our Sabbath rest, and that's the point. He wants to get all of us to that point of like, it's that trust in knowing that He does have it. And even when things happen as we go through life, and you can look back on your life and you can see through experience, God provided for me here in this way, but His provision is He can meet every need that we have. He may not meet those needs in the way that we think they ought to be met, or in the time frame that we think they are, but when we trust Him and we rest in the fact that God is going to give me exactly what I need when I need it, not when I want it, but when I need it, there's so much. It is an absolutely freeing thing to know, and we have to, as human beings, remind ourselves of that, in everything that we face. That God has this, God has us, your family,
And the thing when people take it too far, what you're talking about, they still had to go out and pick up the manna. They still had to. So it doesn't take you completely off the hook. You still got to go do something,
of course,
but you're not. There's no anxiety involved in it. There shouldn't be that's diminished. As you learn to rest in that.
Well, oftentimes that's the mechanism by which God is moving anyway. I would say like you didn't just sit at home and like wait for like money to show up in your mailbox.
No.
You worked. He gave you the ability to do those things, and grew you and stretched you in all those areas too. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
And But I'll tell you just a quick story real quick. So I after I was in my house for I don't know how many years, several years, I put a front porch on my house. And once again, money was tight and all that stuff. And so I finished up the porch, and I did everything myself. My neighbor helped me frame it up and everything, but I finished everything myself. And I wanted to put, ceiling in, like a wood slat ceiling, but I was basically out of money, like, I realized I looked at the price, what it cost and everything, like, I'd really, like to do that, but oh well, And then one day somebody walked up to me in church, said, I don't know why, but, God told me to give you this. And the ceiling with the wood, the material was going to cost $300. And they walked up and handed me a check for $300. Mm-hmm. Like, thank you, Lord. Yeah. So I went and bought the stuff and finished my ceiling. Right. But it's just out of the blue. Mm-hmm. The people had the only time this person had ever given me anything, mm-hmm. But God provided. It was like, okay, absolutely. Cool, and I saw that,
time and time again
over the years. But God is good.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah, and the place I wanted to get to Sunday that it just didn't have time was that this all points to Jesus, which ironically we're going to Jesus this week, but, in John 6, Jesus references mm-hmm. this exact what's happening here, He says, truly, truly, I say to you, it was not Moses who gave you bread from heaven, but my Father gives mm-hmm. you the true bread from heaven. For the bread of God is he who comes down from heaven and gives life to the world. And they said, give us this bread. And Jesus said, I am the bread of life. Whoever shall come to me shall not hunger, and whoever believes in me shall not thirst. Mm-hmm. And so he, I listened to a message a little while ago that basically was saying, we in our culture today even want a Moses. Like where Moses was the one that went up and talked to God and then came back and told the people what God said. Even in this, like Moses went up and said, okay, here's what God's got for us, but we don't live in that kind of we live under grace. And so we can go directly to Christ anytime we want. We can seek his word and what he said anytime we want. And so often we still want to live like we're waiting for Moses to come and tell us what to do. Right. Or we wait to hear our pastor on Sunday tell us what God said. It's like we have it right here. Yeah. Like you have everything you need to walk with the Lord. Get out of the Moses mentality and get into, Jesus has everything you need for today, and he's provided it for us right in his word. And even in that scenario there, it goes on, and they're like, give us a sign, like there was a sign in the wilderness, give us a sign. And Jesus is like, I am the bread. I am the sign. I am he.
It's one, hey, waving his hand. I'm here.
Yes.
Because if he performed a miracle, they'd be like, ooh, do another.
Yes.
Yeah. Because the problem with that is there's just never enough.
No.
We talk about this with the teaching in the kids class when we were going through Exodus and saying they literally were following a cloud. But, they saw the glory of God. Yes. He fed them daily for 40 years, and they still doubted.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, real quick, a cloud by day, a pillar of fire by night.
Yep.
A cloud gives shade in the desert, which can be an important thing. Mm-hmm. And a fire, the desert gets really cold at night.
Yep.
The desert, people don't realize that, but the desert gets very cold at night because there's nothing there.
and the things that are there want to eat you. So the fire keeps that away too.
But so you have this pillar of fire by night, so they could see mm-hmm. and be kept warm. Mm-hmm. And so even in those that kind of stuff, and somebody haven't for 40 years they wandered in the desert. Their shoes didn't wear out.
Yep. Yeah.
Their clothes didn't wear out. Yep. All these things. You talk about provision,
right?
My goodness.
Yeah.
So if one of those things happened, it should have been enough. If you walked out your door one day, just one day, and there was food on the ground in front of your tent, for all these people, that should have been to go, okay, God's here, cool. but it happened for 40 years. You know, and pretty amazing.
We're good at taking things for granted. We just really are.
Well, yeah, it becomes commonplace.
You can say we're going to have Wednesday night's going to be our ice cream night, and then you eat ice cream, and there's still some in the freezer. So on Thursday, hey, can we have ice cream? Mm-hmm. I guess there's a little bit left. Friday's grocery day. We better get some ice cream. And before you know it, you're eating it every day. You know, because
I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Right. I knew that would be speaking to you. But
ice cream man.
Yes.
But I mean, things that become our norm, and we become complacent, and you start to stop realizing that it's reliance, and it becomes entitlement. You know, like they started with that entitlement, saying, "Oh, this is so bad. Yeah, it'd be better if we were slaves. It'd be better if we were dead. All this junk." Yeah. And it's just entitlement. We just can shift to that so easily. You really do have to daily, stop, reevaluate, reexamine, rededicate.
Be thankful
every day. Yeah.
So the old saying, "Familiarity breeds contempt." Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You become so familiar with something that it loses, certainly all of its luster, but you actually becomes contemptible. You get tired of it. Mm-hmm. So, I could just go anyway.
Good.
Well, just think how nutritious was the manna? It was straight from heaven.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
These people are probably in the best shape they've ever been in.
Do you have any gluten-free manna?
I think about stuff like that.
Yeah.
And God's given you everything you need, and now you're complaining about it. You've never been this healthy.
Is it kosher?
40 years of honey wafers to prepare you for wiping out people, in battle.
Yeah.
That's what it took.
Yeah.
But I wanted cinnamon swirl.
Cinnamon swirl. New. Cinnamon swirl manna. Lucky Charms flavored manna.
With marshmallows.
With marshmallows. Now with cloud-shaped marshmallows. Try our golden halos, our white clouds.
The arc.
The arc. The fiery arc. I got a burning bush. I hope the Lord has a sense of humor.
I mean, look around, he does.
He does. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Funny.
Absolutely. Yeah, so this week we're going to Jesus in the wilderness, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Going to 3 Gospels that record that. Probably focus more on Luke than the other 2 because the account's the longest, but then Mark and Matthew. But yeah, we're going to, Mark's just kind of like, he went in the wilderness. He was tempted by Satan. Mark. How Mark just is. It's just action. Boom, boom, boom.
He sahe immediately all the time.
Yeah, it's
and immediately.
And immediately he went here.
And immediately he came.
He did all this in 1 week. You read through the Gospel of John because it's the last of the Gospels, and it's very much like there's multiple there's 3 years worth of feasts that there's a timeline that you can follow through John of he's at the Feast of Dedication. Oh, now he's at the Tabernacles. Oh, you can kind of follow it through, but not that you can't follow Mark. It's just it's very much like
just bullet points,
action. Yeah, here he is.
Bullet points. Yeah,
bullet points.
Yeah, but yeah, we'll be talking about the temptation of Jesus. Interestingly enough, there are some parallels between the children of Israel and Jesus in the wilderness, and he came to do all the things that they couldn't and we can't as the last Adam. And we'll talk a little bit about temptation, what that looks like, and how Jesus does help us overcome. And of course, we'll continue the main theme of, the wilderness being a place where we are shaped and prepared. And one of the starting points for next week is going to be the fact that it was the Spirit, because you really can't talk about him going to the wilderness without talking about his baptism and what that, what was going on there, and this beautiful image of the Trinity, the voice of the Father, the descending of the Holy Spirit bodily in the form of a dove, and then, of course, the Son being present, but how the Spirit drove him. That word driving is, it sounds strong, but it's like leading and guiding him into the wilderness, and that the Lord had to go through that wilderness season. And he identified with us in every way, which is it's a wondrous thing to see. Mm-hmm. Such an example. So don't want to preach that message just yet, but I'm...
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah. Looking forward to it.
Yeah.
So
we'll do it all in about 10 minutes. So, just kidding. Well, thank you for listening. We hope that you're blessed, and we will talk to you soon.
God bless.
Thanks for listening to LCC Remix. If you have any questions about this podcast, reach out via email at lccremix@lifechurchcalvert.com. LCC Remix is a podcast ministry of Life Church Calvert located in Huntingtown, Maryland. You can visit our website, lifechurchcalvert.com, or download our app by searching Life Church Calvert in your app store today.